John, him from Texas, he's a theist. He feels that people are in denial and are refusing to accept God. So, John, tell us a little bit about that. If you were on the line. Wait, oops, I didn't add him. Sorry, John. Okay, John, now we have
you. 1, 2.
You're good.
Okay,
we can hear you.
Yeah, so I started off the sentence with saying I feel like there are people who are in such a state of denial that they're rejecting the undeniable. Is that possible? Do you think that's possible that we can be in such a state?
I don't. I don't think so. The reason is because I think
okay.
Yeah, I think there are people who are coming from I think there are people who are coming from so many different perspectives, right? That the fact that you've got so many various opinions across space and time for humans across all cultures speaks to an incongruence, that's probably better, to incongruence in our understanding and our perception of what the divine is or ought to be. So thus there is no ultimate truth that, half the world for their entirety, like through the entirety of civilization, in Central America or South America or China, these areas that, because I presume you're speaking.
Wait, I don't know what you're referring to. I don't know what you're referring to specifically. I said people can believe in their own lies and they reject the truth. What were you responding to when I said that?
John, I'm saying that. Let me ask a question first, actually. You're a Christian, right? Would that be a fair characterization?
No, I'm not a Christian, no.
Okay, what perspective are you coming from?
I mean, I'm a Native American, so I kind of really believe that there are a lot of spirits and there is a great spirit, and I do think we are polluting the land, and I think there is a lot of stuff that politically we should be addressing that we're not talking about. But when we're talking about God.
So you have from your perspective, is there like a chief level big man upstairs, like a deity, like an individual who is sort of your ultimate, like an ultimate authority?
I do believe in this aspect of infinity.
So
I think there is this infinite. Yeah, I think there's this infinite aspect that created everything, and so there is like this awareness that encompasses that.
Why has this perspective not been emergent in every culture?
Can you repeat that? I can't hear you.
Why has this perspective not been emergent in that way in every culture then? If everyone is simply denying an obvious truth.
Wait. You're telling me that throughout history, every culture hasn't talked about some kind of deity that lives in the sky that is eternal? Are you saying that that's not a thing that is emergent in every culture?
No, I'm saying there's a great amount of variation in it. Well, first of all, Grayson's right. It isn't, but then there's also a great amount
of course, there's variations. There's variations in everything. In any form of life, you're going to see variations in it. And even in perspectives, right? Like we could be in the same culture. We could wait.
Who's right?
Just talking about variations. When you talk, who's right? The fact that there is this emergent phenomenon that occurs, which refers to this infinite being, that is what's right. Like just because there's variations of this aspect of how we perceive it, doesn't mean that it's not correct.
Right, but some cultures and groups don't have a great being.
Can you give me an example of one of those? Other than atheists?
Well, atheists don't
even
believe...
atheists have the great... Wait, I thought atheists believe in the great spaghetti monster. So even that is like some kind of cosmic entity.
Are you trolling?
I feel like you might be trolling a little bit here, pal.
No.
But
no, I'm not.
If you're genuinely
okay, well, y'all are the ones that bring up the cosmic fucking space, whatever the fuck. I don't believe that. No, I don't believe in it, and I think y'all are the ones who are trolling whenever y'all bring that up. And I'm saying atheists are the only group of people who even ever bring up this dumb, ridiculous, what did you call it? Trollish thing, spaghetti space monster. Like no one believes in that other than atheists. Those are the only people who say that.
I don't think
Yeah, I
anybody
just want to
believes
clarify.
in that.
Yeah,
Even if they did, that would be an example of this like unknowable cosmic entity, omniscient cosmic entity. Like that would technically fall under the same category if someone did believe in that, as these other cultures which you are claiming are basically converging on this same theme without even knowing it, right? So that would it's kind of funny that you're like spurning that idea because that would actually help your case. But your case is already somewhat unsalvageable because of what Grayson mentioned earlier, right? Which I'm sure you heard in the call, which is that there are cultures and groups of people who do not have this singular like
Example.
deity, omniscient deity within their belief system.
and I just want to clarify also, in terms of whether or not I'm denying the existence of such a grand god or deity, like as I mentioned a little bit earlier, like I was not raised with much awareness of religious beliefs or whatever. So, to me, like for me to believe something requires I have evidence or reason. So unless I can see clear evidence or reason to believe something, then I have there is no reason for me to believe in it. So you're saying to me that I do have this evidence and this reason that I personally can tell you I am not aware of, but you're trying to tell me that I'm just in denial of it when it's like I have no reason to be in denial of that. It's just I'm not aware of any evidence or reason. That's why I would consider myself an atheist.
Well, the reason why I say you're in a state of denial is because you're. Do you understand like your ideologies and your methodologies? Those two things go hand in hand. So like, if you do an experiment, you have to follow this certain ideology if you're going to follow the method, right? Do you understand that or no?
You mean like
Well,
methodological naturalism or like assuming that the laws of the universe don't change from one point in time to the other, like that kind of stuff?
I'm saying like science is based off of certain theories, right?
Well, science is based off the scientific method. That's not necessarily a theory in and
Uh,
of itself.
So
okay,
science starts with an
so this is why.
observation and then an effort to explain that observation by forming a hypothesis, making predictions, and then testing those predictions, right? And then if you get enough hypotheses that bear out, then you might end up with a theory, right? Which explains the bulk of those
Exactly.
hypotheses. If you can do so mathematically, then you have
And
a
that's what I
law.
was saying. And that's
So
what
what
I
are
was
you saying?
saying. There are these theories. There are these theories that we base science off of. There's observations, and then we draw these conclusions, and we make these theories based off of these
So
observations, right?
science isn't doing any of these things, right? Like science is just a way of knowing, right? That's actually what science means, right? It's a way in which we seek to understand the world around us. Methodological naturalism is the
Yeah,
best
it's a
way of
certain
doing that because
worldview.
it doesn't assume unknown entities, right? It assumes that any event that you're examining is going to have a natural explanation and therefore can be investigated by us as humans. It has regularity, it can be falsified, things that we talked about earlier,
It's
right?
a certain
By the
belief
way,
system.
because I'm not a cultural anthropologist, I just Googled which societies in particular don't actually have like religion inherent to them or have rather personalized spiritualities rather than like a big omniscient deity. And there are actually boatloads more of them than I thought, John. So that kind of that that kind of takes us back to
Can you
this
say
question
one?
of
Can you just say one of
yeah,
them?
yes, the Ionians.
The Ionians. That's like an ancient culture.
Yes. And if
Okay,
you
I'm gonna
want a
look them up
modern
later.
one,
I'll look it up.
then I'm probably mispronouncing it, but the Piraha, it's a Amazonian group.
The Paha are
Okay.
especially renowned for this exact trait. Like the Ionians, I don't know. I mean, the Ionian school is kind of largely seen as sort of the birthplace of natural philosophy and explaining the world naturalistically without supernatural explanations. That's more of like a philosophical school like that led to Greek philosophy. But the Praha, like they are like renowned as this tribe in the Amazon that like the concept of a god or deities was like foreign to them. Like when missionaries went there and tried to evangelize, they literally had no concept for gods or deities or any kind of minds like personifying natural forces.
So, but this is critical, right, John? Because as you said in your question, right, in your opening implication, right, was that people are just denying the existence of this all powerful being, who or whatever they may be. Does this all powerful being just
Infinite.
have a lot of disdain for the Paha, right? Like this particular group that has not seemingly
No.
incorporated any sort of belief into their system? Or because if not, then they falsify this idea that every person inherently has this understanding that there is this greater unknowable or somewhat knowable entity that is omniscient, right? They should not exist under the worldview that you presented initially.
I didn't say everybody knows. I said there are people who are in such a state of denial that they reject the undeniable.
about-
I'm not disagreeing with you. I want to say I'm not disagreeing with you that there are some people who are completely just unaware of the truth and they're incapable of even being aware of it, of no fault
So
of their
your
own.
understanding, everybody either knows about it and accepts it, and knows about it, or denies it, or doesn't know about it.
Yeah, that's how the truth works. Either you know about it, you accept it, you know about it, and you understand it, or you don't know about it at all. That's what you call the truth.
Well, no, you either know about it and accept it, you know about it, you don't accept it, or you're ignorant to it. You said the same thing twice
That's
initially.
what I just said. Okay,
No,
well,
you should
that's
play
what I
it
meant
back.
to say. I'm sorry if I
No,
misspoke.
it's
I'm
okay.
sorry.
I understand what you're going for.
Yeah, I meant to say that.
And your idea is that the thing that these people are all either aware of or not aware of is this all powerful deity. That would be your hypothesis here, because you've
The
already
infinite,
changed
like
it a little.
someone
in
was
the
just speaking
statement.
about. No, someone was just speaking about. Let's talk about scientifically speaking. Like, you were just talking about the expansion of the universe, right? What
Yep.
shape is the universe? Because y'all want to act like y'all know about what the hell is going on around you. What shape is the universe supposed to be if it's expanding in every direction
Well, before
all around us? Like,
Grayson touches on that, right? Like you already pivoted on this, right? Because initially your point was every culture recognizes this all-knowing deity, right? And then you get confronted
no, I
with
said
one,
throughout
two
history.
actually, but certainly one that
No, I
doesn't,
said
and then you pivoted, right?
no.
So like
I said throughout
so
history there has been
we're moving
all I
forward with
said
the
was throughout history
understanding that
there's been
there are
groups.
we're moving forward with the
Yeah.
understanding that there are groups that do not accept or do not understand or basically who don't conform to this idea that
Yeah, I
this
accept that. Yeah.
So
I'm
let's
just
move forward.
saying
Grayson,
throughout
tell us
history.
a little bit about the shape of the
Okay.
universe.
Yeah, so
Right.
this kind of underlies like a sort of faulty premise of the idea that the universe is like a three-dimensional object that exists in space, which is not the case. I mean, outside the
Okay.
universe doesn't make sense because if the universe contains all of time and space, there is no space outside of that from which you could go to look at the shape of the universe. Like when you're talking about like
Okay.
space
So it's
and
flat.
time,
So then you're saying it's flat.
hey, you don't get to just interrupt mid-sentence here. I'm almost
Sorry,
done.
I'm
And you
sorry.
can
Okay.
smell it. So
My bad.
when you're talking about the universe as all of space and time, right, is part of the universe, there is no space that you can just get a different view of it at. There is no, like, the universe is not just a three-dimensional object existing within
You're in
space
it.
that does have a bit of shape. Yeah, like, it's a malformed question.
Okay.
It's amorphous
So
because
is it a
it's constantly
four-dimensional
expanding in every
object?
direction.
Exactly.
Is
So
there a
what else do?
four-dimensional
Wait,
object
I
would
want to
not
ask you what
conform to the idea of object?
what else can we perceive that expands in all directions? What's it called? Equally in every direction.
Well, most
Why
gases
do
do
we
that
need
when you're in a room, right? Like they expand equally in all directions. There's just they run out of substance and then they're equally dispersed. But like expansion is is a pretty universal principle.
But I also
So
don't
yeah, a
understand
bubble.
why. I don't
A
understand
bubble is
why
the point.
something else. Like, why do we need another example of space time expanding? Like, I don't understand why would
Because
such a
if you're
It,
because if
what's the
you're saying that the
hypothesis here,
universe
John?
is expanding in such a way that the universe is a bubble shape. That's the point I was making. The universe should
no?
be in such a way that it is like a bubble. If it's expanding in every direction equally, it would be forming a circle.
No, because
that's what a circle
a
is.
A bubble
bubble
is a sphere.
a bubble has a bubble has an edge. It has a
Yeah.
definitive boundary to an end. Like, the universe does not have an edge. It doesn't have a boundary where you just hit the edge of the bubble like universe. It's not the universe
Yeah,
is
there
not
is.
a
What are you
object.
talking about? Yes, there is. The universe is made
Where's
up
your
of
evidence?
matter.
Yeah, where's the
Where's your
boundary?
What do
evidence?
the
Please,
boundary
please tell us.
is matter. Is literally the boundary is matter. Like if there is no matter, there is no universe. I don't know how y'all don't know what the universe is.
None of that logically followed. I just want to be clear. You
If
could totally have a universe with no matter. That was just
without matter,
creation.
so how would that work? How would that
It
work?
wouldn't
Can
be
you
matter.
walk me through that real fast?
Matter is not the only state of existence for things to be, right? Like
Energy,
that's not
matter. Energy is matter. Energy equals matter. So if there was no energy,
Those
there
are,
would be no universe.
no, they are not interchangeable, right? Like
yeah,
energy, like
they're
radiation,
E
become
equals
matter,
MC equals MC
but they're
squared.
not the same thing.
they're not simultaneously both.
Like,
So you're telling me
energy
I
is
can have
oh,
some
wait,
kind
wait,
of
wait.
matter
Hold on.
without energy.
Okay, John,
Hold on.
let's let Grayson talk here for a minute so he can clarify, having a background in
Yeah, let's
this.
hear it. Let's
Yeah,
hear this.
energy is an attribute.
theatrics.
Okay, John.
Okay, yeah, we're
Okay.
gonna let him talk. We're gonna let him talk.
Energy is an
Grayson.
attribute that matter has, right? Energy is like measured in joules. Like, it's not like an entity into it of itself. Like, if you talk about like something that is not matter that still has energy, you're talking about like radiation, like photons of light. So you could theoretically have a universe that was nothing but radiation with no matter present. There's nothing impossible about such a universe. You can still have space, time, and radiation. Such a universe is not logically incoherent or logically impossible.
Gravity isn't matter or energy either. It's a fundamental force.
Yeah.
I mean, am I right on that, Grayson? Like gravity's not either.
Okay. If you want to be
I-
super technical, gravity is a pseudo force. It's like a little bit different than the other fundamental forces, but sure. I mean, it's largely fits the point. Like the idea that just because there's matter in the universe, that necessitates that the universe have some sort of physical boundary, it does not logically follow, and there's no evidence or reason to support such a conclusion.
Well, in our understanding
Okay,
of where the
so
boundary
let-
of the
let-
universe currently is, let me finish real fast, John. Our understanding of where the boundary of the universe currently is has to do with the tools available to us and the limits of the speed of light, right? Like it's not that there's nothing beyond what we can see; it's that we can't see beyond what we can't see, right? Like, or what we can
Yeah,
see.
it's more of it's a limit in our ability to detect, or it's like a limit in our epistemology of the universe, less so than being an actual physical boundary of the universe.
Right.
Okay. Do you agree with me that science is like a certain worldview? It's a way of looking at
Science
the
is
world
not.
and understanding
Science is
it.
a way of knowing. It's one of our means by which we understand the world around us. One of, and it can be incorporated with other means as well.
Yeah, science is a
Do you
is
have
a
a problem
method of
with saying worldview?
In my experience, worldview tends to be rather all-encompassing. You can have science in your worldview, or you can take a worldview that puts science more centrally, but like it's not in and of itself a worldview. No, it's a way of understanding. the natural world in particular. Like, you can have a religious worldview and then also utilize science.
Okay, I guess.
Like
Yeah, I guess
secular
so. I'm
humanism.
I'm not trying to argue about it.
Okay. Kind of
Uh-huh.
seems like you are. It kind of seems like that's exactly what
No.
you're here to do.
No, I
So
think
what
I think science does tend to have certain worldviews, and if you stray from that perspective, then you are considered like crazy or an outcast to
So
the
absolutely
mainstream.
not.
yeah,
Absolutely not.
I'd like to make the point that among scientists, right, like people following the scientific method for their career, you can find Christians, you can find Muslims, Hindus, atheists. You find people that believe in ghosts or other supernatural phenomenon or aliens or higher dimensions, whatever. Like all of those people are still practicing science with like radically different worldviews. They all have different worldviews, but their worldview is not science. Their worldview is composed of all the other aspects of how they see the world. Like, it doesn't.
And the ones
Science
that
does
are
not.
the ones that are really good conform to methodological naturalism when they're in the lab, and when they leave the lab, then they pick up their other perspectives, right? Or like they keep them as non-overlapping magisteria, as it were. Right? I've studied human evolution. My department is biological anthropology, and I've said this many times before. I've got Christians in my department, Buddhists, Jewish people. We have one Hindu person as well, right? Like, people are coming from all different perspectives, right? And they're still doing great science. So no, science does not have to be this worldview that is all about conformity, not in the slightest.
Okay, so this is why you said in the beginning that I might be a what do you say, presuppositionalist?
Yeah,
I don't know how to say it right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Presupposition.
And that is that not a worldview?
Being a presuppositionalist is a worldview. You kind of took it in a different direction than I thought you were going to take it in. So that one's on me. I thought you were going, in sort of the Christian version that I tend to see of that, which is like, everybody knows God and the people who aren't Christians are choosing to deny him. That's typically how that goes. You took that in a different direction than I anticipated. But yes, being a presuppositionalist is a specific type of worldview within
That
certain
scientists hold
versions.
of science, right? When they say like
No.
this is objective and reality works like this because I pre-assume this is how things work.
So that is actually
not
fundamentally
understand-
the opposite of science,
Wait.
John, because science is provisional.
Wait.
Science
So
makes assumptions
are
based
you-
off of our understanding,
go ahead.
but
Sorry.
ultimately it is always subject to change. Always.
I agree with that, but you understand that the foundations of science is math and philosophy?
Hello?
You might be able to say that the foundation of science in some way could be like logic or something like that, because you do need certain
What is
abilities
logic
to
rooted in?
but
The
you
laws
do
of
need
logic is rooted in philosophy.
well, no, it's rooted in like
What is
maybe
the laws of
certain.
logic rooted in then?
It's hard to talk
Axioms?
when you talk over us, John.
Yeah,
Sorry.
you gotta-
Okay, I'm gonna mute.
yeah,
I'm
you
gonna mute.
gotta-
I'm
you
sorry.
gotta lay off.
There's a little bit of a lag over here. I'm gonna mute up. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Go ahead, Grayson.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, in order to do science, there are certain like assumptions that need to be made about like you have to be able to have like a rational process and
Yeah.
follow steps of logic. Like, I mean, like an inductive
Axioms.
process. Yes, so those do rely on certain metaphysical axioms, but like again, that's not really the same as saying that you have a worldview
And
because
axioms are
science
isn't
is not.
axioms a fancy way of saying an assumption?
No, so science is, as we said earlier in
okay.
this conversation and earlier, right? Science is a way of knowing. And if you're going on like Popperian principles, right, then in order to do science, right, in order to apply science to a thing, it needs to be observably regular and it needs to be falsifiable. And you assume that there is a non-supernatural cause, a naturalistic cause to it. Those are the three assumptions to perform the scientific method on something, at least as I teach them in my labs, right? That's how we do it, right? Those aren't like those are assumptions, right? That doesn't mean that you can't investigate something not using those assumptions, but because those assumptions are inherent to science, it means that in order for your investigation to be scientific, it must meet those criteria, right? Like that's just categorically what science is.
Yeah, so I think just to hammer this home, like the assumptions that you need to have in order to do science do not prescribe that you hold those same assumptions in the other areas of your life. Like
Right.
just because in order to
Exactly.
do science, you have to assume that there's not a supernatural mechanism for what you're looking at. That doesn't mean that the scientist doing that doesn't cannot believe in supernatural mechanisms. Just in order to do their science, they're not looking at those mechanisms then. That doesn't mean that it has to prescribe what worldview that they hold.
Yeah, that's not my
Otherwise, you
argument.
couldn't have different worldviews and be performing science, be doing science.
That's that's not my argument. I'm saying to hold science has a specific worldview which says all things are objective, and we go based off of these axioms. Axioms are assumptions. Assumptions are based off of things we can't prove. These are
Who is holding
akin
science as
to
a
beliefs.
worldview?
What? I'm walking you through this whole thing right now.
But like
No, I'm saying
the very
yeah,
first step you said is what we disagree with. You're saying science is
yeah,
a worldview. You're saying no, it's not.
yeah. That's the problem. That's why we keep
So
going back to the. Is you're moving past step one
science,
when we haven't established
this
step one.
wait, but the foundations of science says like things are objective and logical, right? There can't be
We
like
just
we can't
one.
do
We
science
just
if
went
it's
through the step.
illogical, if it doesn't follow these certain mathematical what? I'm
We
sorry,
just
what did
went
you say?
over what science is. We just went over the steps of science, right? We just went over the assumptions that science makes. Was there anything in that that said that everything has to be objective and viewed through this specific lens?
That's like
Falsifiable, right?
what science
Naturally
claims.
occurring
That's
and
what science
regular.
claims to be.
Who is this science? I've not met
Science
this
claim
person. Who's claiming this?
Are you just saying that in order to do science, you have to assume that like there's a world outside of yourself, like there's an objective reality that exists?
I'm saying that
Are you
there's these
saying
specific worldviews, yeah, and this objective worldview that we hold, which is everything is separate from us, it is a certain way of looking at reality than actually understanding that we are connected to everything. There is this universal consciousness, like you were talking about integrated information theory. Yeah, you're right. You don't know what that means. You're talking about it and you don't know what the hell you're talking about. Because literally that actually
Wait,
supports
what
you
did I
talking
say
about
about it?
how DNA.
I said that hey John, hold on. What did I say about it? What I said about information theory was you can go and watch a great series of videos, series of lectures by someone who studies this for a living, right? Like it's not a
Mhm.
dunk to say you don't know what you're talking about when I say I don't know what information theory is, right? Like that's not my field.
I'm agreeing with you. Yeah, you don't know you don't know what it is. Because literally you wouldn't
You're
have brought it
right.
up
I don't have a
as
background in information theory.
also what
Are
you've
you
I
already
agree.
suggesting
I agree with
what
you.
you've already what you've
I was
already characterized of being like my worldview is already wrong about my worldview. You said that I consider myself to be separate from the objective reality and we're not all interconnected, when I absolutely do not believe that is the case. So you've already mischaracterized what I actually think is my worldview, which is
common
again
descent necessitate it?
like
What
even
you're saying,
beyond
I feel like I'm getting
yeah,
attacked
even just
now.
all that. I mean, like, you know, if fundamentally we're all coming from like the same source, like of you know energy of radiation of some kind of unified field, then like there is a sort of monist aspect to that we would all just be like differentiated iterations of the same basic thing. Like again, that is maybe part of my worldview, but that's not part of science because here's the key: science is not a worldview. It doesn't inform your worldview. I have my own worldview that's independent of science.
Science is a tool.
Okay, I'm not gonna argue what a worldview is then if you are so hung up on that specific
But John,
terminology
it's step
that I
one.
brought to the table.
It's
I
step
thought that
one,
that
right?
wasn't long. Like, John, I thought that you came on to try to make the argument about worldviews. So I'm confused. I don't understand why you called then. What were you trying to ask about?
The literal like title was supposed to say you're in such a state of denial that you're rejecting the undeniable, and that was going into this whole aspect of you have this certain methodology and this ideology that you use to confirm what truth is, and this is the scientific method, and anything that does not conform or like echo in the halls of what is it called academia is not going to be acknowledged or even recognized as something that is actually possible. Like that's the thing
This
that
is,
happens
Absolutely
with
this is like, yeah, this is like saying that the Academy Awards aren't recognizing enough books, right? Like at the Oscars, they focus on ranking movies.
okay.
Science focuses on things within the purview of science, right? If you want to talk about the supernatural, like, there are other places where people discuss that kind of stuff. You can go
I'm
to
not talking about the
talk to
supernatural.
philosophers or religious folks or
Okay.
whatever.
I'm not trying
John,
to
well,
talk
it
about
sounds
this.
like
I'm literally saying, like, literally,
Wait,
if I was a time traveler, if I was the multi-dimensional time traveler, and I was like, yo,
Let's
I'm fucking
Grayson.
in a whole
All right,
other
I'm gonna
dimension.
have to mute him for a second. Okay, go ahead, Grayson.
Okay, I do
I
want to
muted
hear
him.
about your multi-dimensional time traveler, John, but I just want
but
to make
I'm letting Grayson
I
talk.
want to make this point really quick, okay? You're saying that, like, and we agree that science is a method of, like, developing truth, right? There's a certain scientific method, but that method cannot uncover all truths. There are limits to the scientific method. There are truths out there that science isn't capable of addressing. That doesn't mean that in the scientific worldview that you have to just say that those things are not true, those things can't exist. It's just that science is not the proper tool to use to address them. And science doesn't preclude you having any ideas or beliefs about supernatural things in it. It's just not part of science. But science is not a holistic worldview. That's why you can have all these other ideas for all these things that are outside of the purview of science in your worldview, because science is not a worldview.
It's not a worldview.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna unmute him here. I'm gonna unmute him. Okay, John, you're not muted
I would
anymore.
say,
Go ahead.
okay, thank you. I would strongly disagree and say, I would say to you who believe strongly in science, it does shape your worldview. If you have certain ideas on how reality works, and someone tells you, yo, I experienced this, you're going to be like, well, based off of my understanding on reality, aka science, I'm not going to accept that as truth or proof. Like, again, I want to say this. If I'm a multidimensional time traveler who came in from a whole nother timeline, from a whole nother dimension, and I was like, yo, I'm in another world, there isn't a way for you scientifically or for me to prove it to you or to show it to you, because you're lacking this experience. I can't reproduce this thing that happened to me.
There are so many ways.
There's a lack of science.
Another time to prove that, right? Like if you were from the future, I could say, okay, then tell me some large event that's about to happen, right? Like you could actually test that. A better example would be if I came, if I said to you that there is
alternate timeline. I said I'm from an alternate timeline.
Let's say I said to you, John, that there's a unicorn
isn't going to be the same.
You can't see,
okay, go ahead.
right? And whenever you turn to look at it, it disappears. What if I said that to you?
I just want to clarify that, like, I feel like I literally just described this. I mean, it does, even if your example is flawed or whatever, what you were trying to describe is exactly what I just acknowledged. There are things that are outside of the purview of science, and that doesn't mean that science precludes them from being real or existing. Like,
It's not
I
within
feel like
its
I
purview.
just acknowledged that. And also, I feel like you've like
Okay,
moved the
so
goal.
wait. So are you acknowledging me? No, you wait. Sorry, are you acknowledging me as a potential time traveling dimension hopper? Then, if you're saying that science acknowledges
Come on.
potential
Like,
things
try to
that
have
people
try to have a good
subscribe to
faith.
be
All right. I feel like this might be getting into troll territory here, John. I don't know.
exactly. That's what I'm saying. No, you don't accept it. No, you don't. You're lying. You say you do and you don't.
Grayson, I
Are
think
you?
I'm gonna.
Wait. Let me just ask. Are you, John, an interdimensional time traveler? Are
Don't
you
leave
there?
us in suspense.
Have you time jumped?
He got,
Have you gone to a different dimension?
he left. He left.
Okay.
That means
Like,
yes, by the way, Grayson. We sussed him out and he bailed.
Wow. Like, I mean, I feel like I acknowledged exactly what he was talking about. Like, and the fact that he moved the goalpost from saying that science is a worldview to then modifying to say, oh, well, science can influence your worldview was kind of slippery
Grayson,
how he picked up on this.
those goalposts were on wheels, right? Like the goalposts moved 3 or 4 times. Like first it was like there are no such things as any society through history that does not have religion or the acknowledgement of like greater beings except atheism. So then we bring up some of that. Okay, well maybe there are, but what I'm actually talking about, we just go down the line and move the goalposts until the end there. I mean, I feel like he was kind of just determined to get in a fight, to be honest. Like I think he wanted that to be more incendiary, and like I don't think either of us were in the mood to just like sling insults or whatever, and that's fine. Like but no, I mean you did, both of us said, we were like, okay, like non-overlapping magisteria, right? Science is looking at this, other aspects of human society can make questions about other things, right? That's not what science is about. And then he's like, it's a worldview. What would you do if I said I was what I mean, and what do you do with that?
Yeah. Well, I'm worried that we might have passed up our chance to interact with a multi-dimensional time traveler, but I'll try not to dwell on that too much. All of the knowledge that he could have provided us.
He is not beating the not being an international or an interdimensional time traveler allegations by bailing the second you asked. That's not.
I know. I'd be like, oh, they're on to
Not
me.
beating the allegations. He was like, oh crap, I didn't think they were gonna actually ask.
I got to admit,
He's
though, I was really thrown when you asked him if he was a Christian and he said no. I was like, whoa, like this is
But no,
different.
This is what I'm saying, right? Like I made the assumption, I was like, he's a precept, it's gonna be the usual song and dance, it's gonna be the Darth Dawkins, shenanigans here. And then he was like, no, I'm not a Christian. And I was also like, wow, okay, well, we're pivoting then. We're gonna talk about something else. But you always get something new on Skep Talk, even if it's like I wonder if the interdimensional time traveler rules are like the movie version of if someone asks if you're a cop, you have to say it, right? So it's like by asking, you compromised him and he had to get out of here like ASAP.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jimmy Snow, executive producer of The Line, and the rumors are true. Forrest Valkai is, in fact, a hostage in my basement. If you would like to contribute to his freedom one day, you can do so by supporting us over on Patreon or becoming a channel member. There are specific tiers for specific shows or the channel at large. You can also send us super thanks. Those are great. You can like, comment, and subscribe. Also, fudge the algorithm. Go to one of these things. The algorithm doesn't matter. It thinks it knows you better than we do. Better than you do? I know you better. Hank. There's a bunch of people named Hank. I just freaked way out. Okay, go to one of these.